Okay, we're live on TikTok and I'm starting Instagram. I'll cue you.
Hi everyone, welcome to our weekly live sessions. We are now live on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So hi to everybody on all the platforms. Welcome to our session. This week, really no topic. It's a free-for-all. We're going to do a Q&A because we get so many questions, sometimes on topic, sometimes off topic. So we figured we'll dedicate an entire day to Q&A. It could be law related. It could be whatever you want. I'm Leanna, this is Sam and Aria. So ask all of us, any of us, whatever you want. We love to hear from you guys, as always. So while we're kind of getting people to join, let's talk about, I think, the biggest news in the past few days, and that was Kim Kardashian passing the baby bar. So one of the things I want to mention, because this came up on TikTok live yesterday or the day before, is that people thought it's a version of the bar, and so now she can practice. And I want to make sure you guys understand that this is just a rite of passage so that she can continue the remainder of her apprenticeship. So this was almost like a glorified final that she took. But again, it's a difficult exam, so congrats to her. Do you want to talk a little bit about the difference between the baby bar and the actual bar exam?
Yeah, so like you said, it's kind of a step that you need to take to be able to take the regular bar. A lot of people say it's harder. A lot of people say it's not harder. I think Kim was right that the passage rate is lower for this. So when she said it was a difficult exam, and I do want to give props to her. I know that she gets a lot of hate from a lot of people, but it is a tough exam, and she did pass it. She had a goal in mind. She followed through, and she did it. I know a lot of people that have taken it many, many times, both the baby bar and the regular bar. And at some point, they just give up, and it is what it is. So congrats to Kim.
Yeah.
So,
you want to add?
yeah, if I recall correctly, I think the baby bar is for individuals who are doing an apprenticeship or who do not go to an accredited law school.
Yep.
They have to take this exam in order to be able to sit the actual bar exam. And I think that in itself is very difficult because you have to get all your first year coursework and put it into an exam very early on in your legal education.
Right.
So I know it's very challenging. Kudos to her for passing. I think it was her third or fourth time she took it. Awesome. Well,
So
Yeah,
I think what's also cool, sorry to cut you off, is that the reason it's called the baby bar is because it is kind of like the bar exam in that it tests pretty much the same topics, right? The bar exam is 3 years after or 4 if you're part-time, right? And it still sort of tests those like core contracts, Civ Pro, Crim Pro, criminal law subjects. And so is the baby bar. It's that first year, and then you have to take it in order to go on. So that's why it's called the baby bar. And certainly I agree. Good for her. I think when she first announced that she was going to law school, a lot of people were saying, well, she's never going to take the bar exam, and someone's going to take it for her and she's going to become an attorney. So I think this shows that she is actually doing this on her own, right? It took her 3 or 4 tries. It's very relatable. A lot of people don't pass the bar on the first try. A lot of people certainly don't pass the baby bar on the first try. So I think this was actually really cool to see her finally accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say 3 fails and a pass is still a pass in my book. So congrats to you.
Exactly.
that's right.
Someone said she has access to the best tutors and unlimited budget. It's not a real accomplishment.
So I'm gonna disagree. It is a real accomplishment. I don't care how many tutors you have. I don't care how many books you read, how much time you have. You are still the one taking the test. You are still sitting down and taking the test. I think all of us can agree. Everyone that's taken the bar itself. I haven't taken the baby bar, but it's very similar to it. That test is brutal. It is brutal. So some people study for years and they're still not equipped to handle it. So it is difficult. It is challenging. Just because she had resources, I mean, wouldn't we all use those? If I had those resources when I was in high school, I would get those tutors too.
Even with unlimited funding, unlimited everything, she still didn't pass a few times. So it really is an accomplishment, and it is a test to the fact that she sat there and she studied. And you can have the best tutor. You can have the bar creator as your tutor. You're still the one taking that test. So I disagree as well.
A lot of questions. One question here is, how many mistakes are allowed when taking the bar?
I think that depends year to year because it is curved, right?
It's a curved exam. So the bar examiners review all the tests and then they give a certain passing threshold, which I think was lowered a little bit because of COVID for the actual bar. I'm not sure how that translates to the baby bar, but I can't agree more with you guys. It's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, and it varies year to year, like how many people pass, because they do need to fix that pass rate. So you're not really trying to get a certain percentage right on an exam. What you're trying to do is get more questions right than, you know, X
Beyond that
number of
curve,
people
yeah.
beyond that curve. So you are competing with everyone else that's taking that exam. That's exactly how it is in law school. And that's why they make the exam so hard to create that curve. If it was an easy exam, everyone would get, you know, between A and an A+. It would be very hard to distinguish between who's more qualified and who isn't. So they make it very hard. So there's a bigger spread. And that is why you are literally competing with the other people you're sitting in. That's why people go nuts in law school.
So we actually have a question on Instagram from Terrence. He's saying, does she need a degree and or a JD to practice after passing all exams? So in her situation, she's actually doing an apprenticeship program. So she doesn't necessarily get a degree, but it'll count as if she has taken all of her courses. So she won't necessarily have a degree. She certainly won't have a diploma from anywhere, but that will allow her, after completing all the courses and again, after passing the baby bar, to sit for the bar exam. Because in order to apply, you need to apply for the bar exam. You need to meet all of the requirements. So in her case, once everything's completed, she'll meet the requirements. She'll be able to take the bar exam. And then if she passes, she gets a license. So she won't have a degree, but she will potentially have a license to practice.
Someone said, is he wearing a fleece under that suit jacket? So brave. So brave.
I run very cold, so I put on multiple layers just so I can make sure I don't freeze to death in my office. But that's a good question. And yes,
You are not wearing that vest.
It's a vest.
Good call. I
under
didn't
the
even see
shirt.
it.
Wait, who said that? Was that Mandy? Was that Mandy again?
No, his name is Hot Oil.
Throwing some
Hot
shade.
Oil.
Bring it on, Mandy.
You are not wearing
Asking
that
tough
vest.
questions.
I didn't see it. I would have told him
You got
to
a
take it
PI
off.
question here. Should there be more punishment on uninsured drivers?
I think so. But I think more than that, there should be, and we've talked about this before, in California, the minimum insurance limit that you are required to have by law is $15,000, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I've handled so many cases where my clients are injured beyond repair. They're messed up for the rest of their life. Deceased too. I have a case, there's 5 minor children and their mother passed away in an accident, and the minimum limits was $15,000. And there's nothing we can do because the other person doesn't have any funds, doesn't have any money. And I think that's way, way too low. I think you think it should be 50,000 minimum. I honestly think it should be 100,000 minimum
More.
because accidents happen, people get hurt, and some people get hurt for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then also by punishment, I agree, because look, you can be, it's called Prop 213.
Yeah.
You'd be in violation of Proposition 213 in California if you're driving without car insurance. You can still make a claim to get your vehicle repaired and collect for your medical expenses. So really the only punishment, if you will, is not being able to collect like general damages or, you know,
Do you want to explain
like,
what that is?
go ahead.
So general damages, there's 2 types. There's special damages, which is what she was talking about, medical bills, you know, like the hard costs. And then there's general damages. It's the pain and suffering, like the actual pain you're feeling, how it affected your life, the inconvenience in your life, the kind of non-monetary things that are very difficult to put a dollar figure on. Those are what we call general damages. If you are uninsured and you get into an accident that's not your fault and you sue the other person, you are not allowed to get your pain and suffering damages, which in a lot of cases, that's where you get the big verdicts. That's where you get the 10, 20, $30 million verdicts. That in combination with, you know, extensive future medical care. For example, if you lose your leg or something like that and you need a lifetime of care or home assistance, 24-hour care, those are what the big verdicts are.
Right.
So a joke here. What's a lawyer's favorite drink? Subpoena colada.
that one's come up before.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I've heard that one.
Someone
before.
else said, what does it mean when people say something is political or something has a lot of politics in it?
That's a
General question.
I mean,
very general
it's-
question,
Yeah, I
but-
mean, if something is political, like, it just, I think it means what it sounds like it means, right? It has like political
So-
ties, like wearing a mask, for example. That to a lot of people political, right? It's not. Some people believe that it's not only a health concern; it's more of like a political statement and what's happening behind the scenes. So.
And I actually, something that's on topic that I want to address with that's political, something I feel very, very strongly about, and I think every attorney here does. People have heard of medical malpractice cases, and people have heard that it's very difficult to make a medical malpractice case, or it's difficult to even find an attorney to take on your case. There's a very specific reason for that. A law was passed, I think it was in the 1970s, MICRA, and basically it caps your general damages, which is what we talked about, at I think 250,000. So that means if you undergo surgery, and I keep going back to losing your leg. I don't know why, but that seems like the most extreme. And the doctor amputates the wrong leg. Your pain and suffering is limited to $250,000. You get your medical expenses paid, but your pain and suffering is limited. Why? Because the insurance companies, the doctors, everything, they lobbied, they got that law passed, and it's been in place and it has not changed. Not only that, there was nothing written, no provision for inflation. So it stayed at $250,000 for decades. And I think that's absolutely egregious.
By the way, 250 is the absolute maximum. So usually, unless someone died, you're not going to get anywhere near that 250. That's just how it works. That's why med mal cases are so difficult. And you're also working with an attorney who's not on contingency. So you're paying a lot of money out of pocket. So your attorney's fees alone may end up being in excess of 250 before you even get some kind of a settlement.
And the reason why a lot of attorneys do those not on contingency is because they're notoriously difficult cases. They're difficult to prove, and the damages are
and you need experts.
And you need experts, and you need all those things. So I think some of them do it on contingency, but that's another reason why, and it denies people an attorney who is going to be able to get what they are owed, right? And I absolutely disagree with that. Another thing on that topic, I think there's a bill that's being proposed to cap attorney's fees for personal injury cases. What was it, 20%? 25%. Usually it's 33% to 40 to 45% in litigation. And this is 100% done by the insurance companies. They're doing this because if attorneys make less, they are less willing to take on a lot of cases because it's just not feasible for them to do so anymore. So it doesn't help the people who got hurt, like the insurance companies are claiming, because they're saying, oh, they'll get more money, attorneys take less. That's not the case. Less attorneys will take the cases, which means less people will get representation, which means less people will get justice.
And this has happened before. It's been on the ballot, I think, 2 times prior to this, right? Yeah. So they keep trying it. And that's what
they did to workers' compensation. The attorney's fees are set, they're low, and a lot of attorneys don't do workers' compensation for that reason. And I think it's just egregious that politics are kind of getting involved.
Can one challenge the constitutionality of that 250K provision being arbitrary?
The 250K provision? Mm-hmm. I'm sure they can. I'm sure they've tried, but it's been there for decades. So
we have a question.
I think a law needs to get passed.
We have a question on Instagram. Can foreign lawyers register and practice in the United States? You certainly can register. You cannot practice until you pass the bar exam.
And there's LLM programs, right?
Exactly. They give you that accreditation to be able to sit the bar exam.
Yeah, it's called an LLM program.
So sorry, you don't have to go to law school. You just need to be able. So if you're an attorney, let's say in Italy, you can't come here and just convert your credits as you would, for example, for a bachelor's degree. You would have to actually take the bar exam, pass it, and then you can practice in that state.
Yeah, and I think it depends on where they're applying from, because I remember when I was in law school, some of my classmates were attorneys from other countries, and they told me they need to fulfill like certain amount of units or certain amount of classes that they must take, and then I think they also take the baby bar as well.
And this is actually true for attorneys in different states. You can't just go move to Idaho and practice there. You have to pass the bar exam there as well.
I was going to just say it's very state specific. So if you're considering working in the United States, figure out which jurisdiction you want to work in and figure out what that bar's requirements.
Yep.
Tyler's asking, what's your best advice to a California driver to avoid suing you besides a dash cam?
Oh, dash cam is my number one. Dash cam is my go-to.
Sorry, what was the question?
To avoid, best advice to a California driver to avoid getting sued besides the dash cam.
Drive safe. Don't speed.
Eyes on the road.
Eyes on the road. Do not text and drive. Know where you're going, because a lot of people get into accidents because they get lost and they make a wrong turn somewhere, maybe on a one-way street. Know where you're going. Have a plan. Don't speed. My personal favorite is, besides the dash cam, leave a lot of room between you and the car in front of you. There's no reason to just be all up in their tailpipe. There's absolutely no reason for that. Just
be aware, because you might be doing absolutely nothing wrong and somebody next to you might be drunk, on drugs, whatever, not paying attention, texting. And so if you're aware of your surroundings, you are less likely, of course not 100%, but less likely to get into an accident.
Yeah, you have to keep your head on a swivel, always be looking around. I don't look at the brake lights of the car in front of me. I look at the brake lights of the car in front of that. So I can anticipate when they're going to start braking, because sometimes, especially in LA, everyone just comes to a stop. And
also keep in mind that a dash cam is not going to prevent you from having an accident. It's just going to help you if there's no other witnesses or if it's like a disputed case. So the dash cam is after the fact. It's not going to help prevent an accident.
Well, I think so. Yes, it doesn't help prevent an accident, but I think the question was how to prevent getting sued. So obviously, number one is to not get into an accident,
Yeah.
but also if the other person is at fault, and I've also seen some videos of this where they'll reverse into you and claim you rear-ended them, and then you just point to your dash cam and go, I don't think so, buddy.
Someone's asking, what if my dash cam proves that I was responsible?
And
Well,
then you call your insurance and have them deal with it.
Then you call your insurance. You have a duty not to destroy evidence. I will say that, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Cool. And then someone's asking, what should you do if you get pulled over with a firearm?
I don't handle criminal.
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of factors. Is it registered to your name? If it's not, why is it there in the first place? I think the safest way to travel with a firearm is to keep it in the trunk, locked in a box, not loaded, not cocked, leave the ammo out of it. And if you do get pulled over, immediately tell the officer, hey, I have a firearm in the trunk. It's registered. Here's my paperwork. Can I reach for it? Keep your hands in plain sight.
Also, if that firearm is, this is like a, flashback to law school, but if it's where an officer can see it from a legal vantage point. So if he just pulls you over and he sees it and it's right there, like on your seat, then they have every right to question you and kind of go through the motions. Whereas if it's locked, if it's put away, they're not going to just go digging for it, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah says, I got into an accident that wasn't my fault. Can I ask their insurance to also pay for the depreciation of my new car?
What you can do is you can give us a call and we'd be happy to discuss that with you. I don't know if we should be giving, like specific.
Individually.
Yeah, especially when it comes to depreciation, it's kind of a,
yeah.
There's a lot of things, there's a lot of factors that goes into it. So giving a blanket statement, I think would be not too
but call
responsible
us,
of us.
213-927-3700. You can ask for me. I manage our intake team. Otherwise, anybody from our intake department, Michael, Nicole, Robert, they're fantastic to be able to help you.
Can families of the Amazon workers who died in the Kentucky tornado while working in their factory sue Amazon?
I say what I always say. Anybody can sue anybody in this country.
Yeah. Yes. The short answer is always yes, you can sue. It's a matter of whether or not you have standing and whether or not you're going to really get anywhere with that lawsuit. That to me sounds like a work comp, right? If they were at work, maybe, I don't know if there was like failure to have safety precautions, that it's like an OSHA thing. So short answer is, yeah, they can sue. Long answer is we would need more facts.
You were saying Amazon forced them to not leave or threatened to fire them.
So then that's course and scope. There's a potential OSHA violation, which oversees, the rules and regulations in the workplace. So it's borderline work comp employment / OSHA. So. And
it's not Amazon's first time having these issues with their employees.
They've had a lot of issues. I've seen this in the news. I've heard employees had to run to the bathroom or held it and just peed their pants because they weren't given enough breaks and stuff. Yeah, it's.
Oh my God! If you work for Amazon, call us.
And also, it's not a freak. It is a freak of nature incident, but you can see a tornado coming.
Yeah.
So it's not like you just
so telling your employees not to leave.
It's a potential OSHA violation because it depends on what the regulations are. Like if there's a tornado, hurricane, earthquake, fire, whatever, and you're not allowed to leave your post, then your internal rules and regulations are flawed.
Got a couple questions about law school. Ray says, how long is law school to become a criminal defense attorney?
Law school is the same, no matter what path you choose. 3 years is the standard. Some people take a longer route of, I think, night classes, and that's like a 4-year program, I think.
That's the caveat. So in my evening program, it was a 4-year program. I finished in 3.5. I know some schools offer like an expedited program.
Yeah, there's 2 years.
And that's nuts.
Yeah, but on average, 3 years for any type of law you want to practice law school is 3 years.
Deva is asking, being a lawyer is my dream, and I'm working toward it. I want to know, what courses should I take in college?
What was their name?
Deva.
Good for you. You have a goal, and I think you should pursue it. Give us a call. I'd be happy to talk with you. If you just want to know what courses to take in undergrad, was that the question?
Mm-hmm.
I think you should take something that's legal related. Maybe there's some seminars they offer. I know my school did that were kind of centered around the law. But more important than that, I think you should get your feet wet and check out what a law firm does. Maybe intern there, even if you have the time and you have the resources that you could even work there for free. Just get some experience, get your foot in the door, see what it's all about. Because the last thing you want is to be $200,000, $250,000 in debt, starting the job after you pass the bar, and your first week you realize this is absolutely not what I want to do. That's the worst case scenario.
I actually disagree on the classes with you. I didn't take a single legal class ever. I was an English lit major and I loved it, and I think it helped me with a lot of reading and writing and analytics. So I don't think you have to take legal courses, in my humble opinion, if I may, beforehand, but I 100% agree with you. That is my biggest piece of advice to anybody even thinking about going to law school. Make sure, just go tour a law firm. Call us. You are more than welcome to come in.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
you're around, just take a look, talk to some of the attorneys, get an understanding of what a law firm is like, what is going to be expected of you, and what kind of a life you anticipate after law school. That is going to be, I think, more valuable than taking like a poli-sci class, or like, I just don't think that's really going to give you an understanding of what it's like post law school unless you actually are physically in a place or interning or working or whatnot.
I would just follow up with that. Same as you, didn't take any legal courses, but definitely take classes that will emphasize your writing skills, your reading comprehension skills. And like my colleague said, please go and do something legal related for your internship, for your externship, just so you get a feel for what the profession is before you jump into law school.
Yeah, and what both of you said just reminded me of one of my friends that I had in law school. Shout out to Diana. She was in, I believe, English literature major, and she was one of the top students. She did phenomenal. She was able to read the cases, analyze them. She did better than most other people because that was what she focused on. And studying law, it has a lot of reading. My eyesight went down the hill after law school.
Terrence is asking, what were each of your undergrad degrees?
Mine was English Lit, as I just mentioned.
I was political science. I thought I was going to go into politics.
I was history.
Cool.
Even more lame.
Does WCTL practice in appellate courts, high courts, or so?
We have some cases that we have appealed. And I think there's one that we are appealing now. There's also sometimes an issue that we take on appeal as well. So it's not only like appealing the decision that was made. I think it's called interlocutory appeal or something. Yeah. So in the middle of a case, if there's an issue that you want to appeal, you think the judge got it wrong, you are able to do that. So we have done that sometimes. And those courts, they don't mess around. We mainly deal with state courts, and you can get by with being informal, a lot of stuff like that. The federal courts, appeals courts, they don't mess around.
Ham was asking, what are the benefits of changing a plea from non-guilty to guilty in a federal civil rights case?
That is certainly a NEMA question. So I think when you guys do another live, which you inevitably will today, if you want to just tune in and ask NEMA, who is a former federal prosecutor, I don't think you're going to get even near a good answer from us, but you can. Yeah,
I will say what I do know about this is that oftentimes, so there's criminal and there's civil, right? If you plead guilty, a lot of times it's used against you as one of the statements that you have made in the past. So that could be used against you in the civil case.
Can you get fired for taking the vaccine?
For taking the
vaccine.
vaccine?
So like stealing it?
That was a question.
You certainly cannot get fired for being vaccinated, if that's the question. If you're going to be, if you're not going to be taking it, unfortunately, you can also be let go. And then if you mean stealing it, then yes. So yes, across the board.
Please don't steal vaccines.
Yeah, please don't steal vaccines. Maybe clarify, but the answer is yes on all fronts.
Someone's asking, why is it important to not speak to the police first?
Just like I was saying with the guilty plea, your statements can and will be used against you in a court of law. Everyone's heard that. It is absolutely true. Even if you have the right to remain silent and you have the right to an attorney. A lot of people don't know, if you invoke your right to remain silent, the police can at some point come back and start talking to you again. But if you say, I want an attorney, the police have to cease talking to you until you have an attorney. So any statements you make, they will put it down in a report and they will use it against you. If you say, oh, I had just a couple drinks, officer, they will use that against you.
100%. By the way, that's how insurance carriers work too. So
Yep.
I cannot stress this enough. I say it all the time. Don't talk to insurance adjusters. You get in an accident, hire an
talk to
attorney
them.
right away. Don't call and file a claim. Don't call your insurance, because guess what? Insurance companies are in the business of making money. Your own insurance carrier does not care about
Yep.
you. You say something even remotely vague, it'll be used against you 100% down the road. So just, you get pulled over, you get in an accident, whatever the case is, call an attorney first. You're never going to be found guilty or whatever. If you say, I'm not going to talk to you, I'm going to hire an attorney first. That should always be civil or criminal.
Yeah, I would say don't tell the other driver at the scene that I'm going to hire an attorney or make a lawsuit. Just don't mention that. Just go ahead and do it. Just don't make statements. And a lot of people might be asking, how would making statements to your own insurance be used against you? They're supposed to be on your side. You're going after the other person's insurance. There's something called uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, which a lot of people have that coverage. It means if the other person who's at fault doesn't have enough insurance, you can make a claim with your own insurance. And then you go to war with your own insurance because now they don't want to pay you for your claim, even though you paid for that coverage and they were supposed to cover you. So that's when your statements
Because they'll
will be
say,
used
hey,
against you.
remember on the day of the accident when you said, oh no,
Oh, I
I'm
wasn't
fine,
hurt.
because in that moment you may not be hurt, but then guess what? 3 days later, your neck starts hurting. You've now said you're not hurt. That will come back and bite you in the butt. So don't do it.
We got a few like fun questions here. Someone
Love this.
said, aren't Scooby-Doo and his gang vigilantes, which means that they're breaking the law?
Yes, we need to bring them to justice. They need to be locked up.
I miss Scooby-Doo.
I miss
Also, they
them
said
too.
you guys are really smart and you know what you're
They
talking
said
about.
thank you.
There's
Thank
a lot
you.
of that.
Thank
What's
you.
the most accurate portrayal of law you've seen in a movie or TV series?
Ooh, that's a good one.
My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
My Cousin Vinny is pretty damn accurate. I watch that movie at least once a year. It's one of my favorite movies, and it's actually pretty spot on.
I would just add Billions. I've only seen the first 2 seasons, but I think they do a really good job depicting the DOJ and prosecutorial.
What about the opposite? Who does the worst
What is,
job?
what's the most unrealistic?
My favorite
Everything
show of all
else.
time,
Suits.
Suits. I love Harvey Specter. I love Suits, but it's very unrealistic. Maybe the firm life, not so much, but
The actual
everything
practice.
else, the practice of law, like
Yeah,
you don't get very far with just blackmail.
Yeah, I think most shows and movies that depict actually
How to get
inside
away
the
with
courtroom.
murder also.
Yeah, those are just so fantastical. They're so far removed from the truth. But once in a while, you'll get that one movie like My Cousin Vinny,
I
where
mean,
there's
the
proper
practice of
objection.
law is just not that fun, you know, in the movies and on
But
TV
no,
shows.
I mean, sometimes in court it could get fun, but it's as simple as like getting your expert qualified to give an expert opinion in court, where he was he put his fiance who was mad at him on the stand, and he qualified as an expert, and the judge was like, I'm satisfied with that. She's qualified. Like, that's real. That actually happens. Your expert needs to be qualified to give an expert opinion.
Sam said Suits is just malpractice upon extortion.
Yeah.
That's
Someone
very
on Instagram is actually saying, if you guys find the time, I'd suggest watching Jolly LLB 1 and 2 indie movie series on law. You'd like it. So
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jolly
Thank you.
LLB.
Yeah.
On
What about Law and Order? Is Unrealistic.
I have not
I haven't seen
really
that.
watched that
Yeah.
And
I do
Hannah's
not know.
asking, what car insurance do you guys recommend?
They all suck.
They all suck.
They all suck.
They're
But
all the same.
so when it comes to if the person that hits you, their insurance, they all suck. I think AAA is pretty good at
No.
protecting its own insured.
I would,
See, there you
No.
go.
I
No.
would agree with
No.
AAA, but they're very hard to get.
They're hard to get and they're expensive.
Yes.
No. They're horrible. They will not pay you a dime.
See?
No.
There you
No.
go.
So they all
Natural-
suck. They
I
all
would
suck.
say, I would honestly say, when it comes to your own insurance carrier, probably Wawanisa Insurance. We've had the easiest time with them, where they're a lot more flexible and reasonable.
Yeah, but all the big names, they don't care about
Yeah.
you, and neither do Wawanisa. And
They don't
insurance.
care about
They don't
you,
care about
but
you
they're
either.
just a little bit more reasonable.
But the Geico's, the
oh,
all those
progressive, Mercury,
State Farm and Allstate,
Bye.
absolute worst. I hate Allstate. I'm going to war with Allstate. We already tried a few cases with them. I went to arbitration. I'm trying another
Yeah.
case with them in a few
Yeah.
months.
That's right.
Allstate is, I think, the bottom of the list. Same with Snake Farm.
Yeah. We actually just won.
We just,
was
Was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago. We just got a verdict against State Farm, and we wanted to, and it was Human. Shout out to
Shout
Human
out to
and
Human.
Dean.
Oh, man.
Human, Dean, and Gillen tried this case, and they absolutely killed it. They wanted to settle it for 60 or 65,000 way back when. State Farm said no, we'll take you to trial. They took them to trial, and now after everything, they're probably going to cough up $200,000 to $300,000.
Right.
So
And that's what it took, is going to
if
trial.
that's what it took
Right.
for this simple case.
So these were actually wonderful questions. I know we can stay on live on TikTok live for a little bit longer, but for everyone else, YouTube and Instagram, thank you so much for joining. Instagram live, you know what time it is. Time for Socks of Sam. Sam,
I
forgot
show
about that.
us what you've got on today.
Today we got, I wanted to kind of match with my shirt, but we got a little crabs running around, you know, those little
Pink
sand crabs that
socks
run on the
with
beach.
blue crabs.
There we go.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This week's Socks of Sam. Follow him on his personal Sammy_Sim, or what is your other Insta?
Socks
of Sam.
_of_Sam.
Oh yeah, there
Kind
you
of
go.
like Son of
Follow-
Sam, you know.
Yeah, follow him for cool and funky socks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Thanks, everyone.
By YouTube, by Instagram. TikTok, we're still on.
Oh,
Yeah, we can.